Hello, welcome to this week's edition of the Coaches Preview Show. I'm Jeremy Qualls. This is a huge week. Battle of Franklin between these two guys. Coach Donnie Webb, Matt Kriesky, head coaches of Franklin High School, Centennial High School. Welcome to the show, Coach Webb. New studio. This is the first time you've been down here in this new studio.
It is. Thank you.
It's pretty nice. I know you look forward to this show every year as well as Coach Kriesky does too, as you can tell. Coach Kriesky.
Yes, sir.
Big win last week. Let's talk about Johnny Crouch for just a moment and what he means to the Centennial Cougars. This guy has to go out on fly patterns and go hard on the receiving, and as soon as he scores, has to turn around, get his breath, and come back and kick a field goal or extra point. He's kind of been the engine for you guys this year. I know Jario Wilson gets all the fanfare. This guy racks up yard after yard, but Johnny Crouch.
Johnny, you can't say enough about Johnny Crouch. He's a team player, does everything we ask him to do. You know, we need him to run routes. We need him out there blocking for us. We need him kicking for us. You know, he's one heck of a punter. I can see him punting at the next level. He's flipped the field for us numerous times punting the football. He's been able to put on kickoffs, putting the ball in the end zone, like you said. He plays the snaps on offense, goes out there, kicks an extra point, then he's doing the kickoff. Real impressed with Johnny this year, and fortunately he's just a junior. We have another year with him.
That's good for more than one reason. And I don't ever talk about parents on the show, but Tammy Crouch and what she does for you. If you didn't have her as your booster club, I don't know if she's president, secretary of all the above. If you didn't have her, you couldn't get anything done.
Man, she runs it all. I wouldn't be running this little nice pullover right now if it weren't for Tammy Crouch. She does an outstanding job for our booster club, raising money, getting out in the community. Like you said, if I didn't have her around, I don't know what would we have at Centennial.
Coach Kriesky, big win last week in the Kriesky Bowl. You played against your twin brother, Riverdale. You win 37-34 on a Johnny Crouch, 5 seconds to go, time expiring field goal. I know that has to feel good, but I know the pressure going into that game. You're playing your brother. Talk about that, just that dynamic. It's interesting because I'm going to segue after this into the man that coached you both and taught you everything that you know, sitting to your right. But talk about the Kriesky Bowl, the Riverdale matchup, and how that, you know, that's an extra stress level.
Yeah, it is, especially leading up. You know, it's not something I want to lead up before we play Franklin because this week is really stressful. But, you know, man, we talk all the time during the week and weekends, you know, comparing game plans, what should we do, this and that. You know, it's kind of tough because, you know, we still talk, but we don't get into much game planning stuff. And then Friday night, playing against each other, you know, both of us knew, he can tell you, we knew that we were going to be high school coaches when we were 8 years old, being a ball boy. That's what we always wanted to do. I remember I was telling somebody a story the other day. I remember sitting in his office as a senior. You weren't
a ball boy when you were senior?
No, I wasn't a ball boy. Should have been, but I wasn't. But talking about going to college, and I remember him saying that, you know, you're going to be a high school coach. You know, go somewhere where you want to go, and don't go pay $30,000-$40,000 to play football. You know, and I knew then that I was going to be a high school football coach, and you know, he steered me in the right direction, which led me going to MTSU, and I haven't left since I've been in this area. So,
well, Coach Webb, kind of your mentor, your coach back in the day, celebrated a pretty big birthday this week.
He did.
We're happy for him, turning number 49. Acts like he's 29, feels like he's 19.
That's right.
If we could ever see those pictures, I was telling him earlier today, actually, if you've seen Dazed and Confused, if you go back into the 70s and all the seniors in high school look like they're 40 or 30, mid-30s, Coach Webb had this awesome mustache. I'm just telling you. But, Coach Webb, a lot of people have said it, best 3-3 team in the state. You're not in this business for moral victories, I get it, but let's go back and look at your schedule for just a moment. Brentwood off the bat, 17-14 loss. Ravenwood week 2, 24-20 loss. You led almost the majority of that game. They scored late. You pick up a win against McGavick. You lose to Indy, and then you beat Hendersonville, which I think was an eye-opener for everybody in the mid-state. Coach, talk about your team. It's up and down, but you've been so close. In this business, when you're that close and you lose some of those games, it's easy to lose your team. It seems to me your team just keeps getting better and keeps fighting, and they're going to be right there at the end.
I think so. It's really tough on them because we got to get a Williamson County win. If we don't win one in this county, obviously you don't have a chance to go to the playoffs. And I mean, that's the bottom line that it comes down to. And in the society that we live in, what have you done for me lately? The now society, it gets more and more difficult if we don't get one of those wins. And the thing that I was most proud of our kids, you know, I think I would say to a T that our expectations going in, maybe not with us, and obviously we thought we had a chance to be a good football team, but I'm talking about the expectations of what was being looked at our football team was like, okay, let's keep our head above water, be a little bit better than, you know, the way things ended last year. And then with some of the youth we have, we'd get better as time went on. But when we came out of the gate, we played really well against Brentwood, had a chance. You know, obviously, don't take anything away from anyone else. We had a fumble that could have put us up 2 scores at one point, and you know, you never know how that outcome's going to change. A catch here there against Ravenwood, that you don't know how that's going to change. And then we played well against Riverdale, and of course last week against Hendersonville. But what happened is those expectations changed because we looked like we could be a good football team. Without a doubt, what we need to do is don't kill ourselves on offense, but be able to somehow produce some points a little bit better than what we've been doing, because we play some pretty good defense. Coach Holcomb, Andrew Holcomb is our defensive coordinator. Does an outstanding job. Be a head football coach if that's the crazy thing he wants to do. But
that's correct.
He's you know, without a doubt, because last Friday night, that defensive performance is one of the best I've seen from back in some of Coach Clayton's years when we were here, and we had some of those good defensive teams back in, that would be like early 2007, 8, those years. So I was really, really impressed with the way we played. And then we did do some things offensively that I thought, you know, without a doubt, we put a lot on Matt Gaka, and we're asking him to, you know, now take snaps, play at the tailback, and then obviously this week he may be asked to even have to go over and have to tackle number 4 and on the other side of the ball. So we just got to continue to keep working and get a little bit better.
Speaking of Gaka, number 4 being Jariel Wilson. Jariel Wilson in the Kriesky Bowl against Riverdale in their 37-34 win. Jariel Wilson, 240 yards rushing on 25 attempts. Matt Gaka, 135 yards on 29 attempts. It's pretty obvious that we're working these guys like pack mules. You got to find that success, and you got to keep feeding it. So going into this game, you know that's what you have to do. But then when you start looking at the Rebels' offense, because Coach Webb has changed from Dr. Defense, which Dr. Defense showed up last week, to Dr. Offense, and looking at spreading the wealth on this thing, you know, you have always got to take into account the receivers. For Franklin, Holthus, 2 catches, 85 yards last week in their Hendersonville win for a touchdown. You know, Chancellor Bright right now is an up and rising star for the Rebels and in the WCS Sports Conference, getting a lot of looks from Power 5 schools, has some offers on the table, 1 reception for 62 yards, drawing most of the defensive attention right now, so it's opening the doors up for these other receivers. One I like to see, Reed Kemp, multi-sport athlete, basketball player, 4 receptions, 39 yards. Stats aren't big, but he's getting those catches because of what Chancellor Bright brings to the table. Defensively speaking, Coach, what are we looking for here on this, and how do we try to stop this attack with Gaka?
You know, first, you know, we haven't played well defensively all year, and I know he's over here licking his chops. So you see what we've been.
Just call it like it is, man.
You see what we've given up this year. You know, we're out to slow them all down. And first, it starts with 24. You know, we'll have to tackle him. You know, we've had issues running the football and tackling this year. So, you know, that's the first thing we have to do is stop him. And then when they want to throw it around, we'll have to stop the receivers. It's going to be a tough night for us defensively. So those guys will have to come ready to play.
On the flip side of the switch, Dr. Defense, you look at Centennial, Jariel Wilson, arguably the best running back in the entire WCS Sports Conference, probably, you know, top athlete with TJ Sheffield. If you start lining them up side by side, you go to the quarterback, Connor Plowman. You got two quarterbacks that have played predominantly all the snaps this year. Plowman happened to play the Riverdale game. Freshman quarterback, 155 yards on 14 to 22 passing. Top, Joey Gustafson, 3 receptions, 77 yards. Always have to worry about Ashari Hainsworth in short yardage situations sometimes, especially at the goal line. Coach Webb, it's a track meet when you go to Centennial. Your games are a little bit lower scores, defense-oriented. What do we do on this and try to stop this track meet and slow it down a little bit?
I've called to ask if we can go to a 50-second clock so we can stay in the huddle a little bit longer because we can't get into a score fest with them. It's, the bottom line, same thing with us. And, it starts with 24. It absolutely does with us. And he's a really, really good high school running back. He's I'm going to tell you, Matt's a very powerful kid. You don't realize how big he is until, you're out beside him. On the flip side with Centennial, if we blink, they've got 1 or 2, maybe even 3 guys that will outrun everybody we got. And so it turns into our 9 to 12 yard gain for them is a 65-yard run, and that's the big deal. It's we got to be able to stop them from having the explosive plays. We've got to be able to tackle in space. They've done a really, really good job of getting Jariel the ball at spots where it's him with. Hopefully, they're trying to get it where it's one-on-one because he'll miss that. If he makes a miss, it's very difficult. We got to get it out of that. We got to be able to have 2 there where we can vice it up. If we're able to vice him in and keep him in there, then we got a chance.
Well, you're both sitting at 3-3. You're still looking for your first region win. You talk about the first Williamson County win. Centennial 2-1, sitting right now in the region with games over Dixon, 42-7, and an eye-opening game of your, in your own right. You look at this score of Independence, 62-40. 102 total points scored, but nobody would have expected, I think nobody expected you, 1, to beat Indy. Let's go on and call it like it is. Number 2, beat them like you did. Was a pretty shocking outcome of that, but that gives you a huge advantage right now in the region race. Brentwood, Ravenwood are kind of in a race of 1 and 2. They still have some work left with Independence having to play both Ravenwood and Brentwood. You guys have obviously already played both the Woods, so that's kind of out of the way for you guys. But do you see that as an advantage of playing them early, or would you rather play some of these stronger Williamson County teams later?
Well, they're all strong.
Yeah.
I'd rather, without a
Right.
doubt. I mean, and I know you didn't mean it like that. The way, if I had my druthers, it was probably the exact same way. We'd learn how to have a fall break that's not landing on Friday, and so we didn't have to move these Williamson County games to the beginning of the year.
Because your Brentwood game was week 1.
It was week 1, and it should be week 7 for us. It's better for the schools. It's better for everything else. But we were doing what's best for the high schools for both. Same thing they did with Raven.
Let me interject something real quick. People don't understand. I want people to understand what you're talking about. What's the big deal of moving it from fall? Well, number 1 is from a competitive standpoint, you might not be at your best in week 1, and that is a huge crucial game as far as region go. Number 2, more importantly, how our programs are funded. Your programs are funded 100% by gate receipts and by fundraising things that you do in the community. Other than that, you don't really get any district money for your program. You don't get any district money for your programs. So you guys are incumbent upon how many people come to those games. If we were to have that game over fall break, which would not be very wise, everybody's going to be gone. Your gate money's going to be reduced, and that's something we just can't afford to do.
Oh, it's football is the lifeline of an athletic.
It's the lifeline of
department.
this district.
And it's also, it helps the softball team, and it helps the soccer team. It's all part of it. Obviously high school teams do not fund themselves, but totally by gate receipts. It's all part of taxes and public school money and all that type of stuff. But the other parts of it, it's those gates are important, and so we did what is best for our schools and move it up to week 1. I'm sure we'd much rather be like If you look at it like a college part, where most you don't see the Auburn and Alabama opening up on week one. You don't see Tennessee opening up with Florida. And so that type of stuff.
It's just not favorable, but
it still gets you good games, and you don't care who you play. You can still get good games, but it'd be better if it wasn't in your district.
When you look back at both of your schedules, you don't lack for competitive schedules. I mean, it's hard when you're a 6A team in Williamson County to really go out and get games. And when you go out and get non-conference games, they're not shabby opponents. You look at yours, you've got Hendersonville. You both played Hendersonville. That is a top-tiered mid-state program year in, year out. Cane Ridge, the best team in Metro right now, the team to beat in this mid-state area outside of the Rutherford County teams. Obviously, you played a Rutherford County team with Riverdale, and you've got Hillsboro, and then you play Summit, which is a non-region game, which is a great matchup. You and Coach Coleman are friends, and it just makes sense to play a non-region Williamson County team if you can. And then, obviously, you finished the year with Brentwood. So you still got an opportunity right here. A lot of people look at this and say, well, the loser of this is probably going to be cleaning the lockers out in October. That's not exactly true, because there's a lot of scenarios that have to be played out, because Independence could easily beat either one of these teams, if not both those teams that we talked about with the Woods. You still got to play Brentwood. You could easily beat Brentwood as well. A lot of scenarios, but whoever wins this game is going to have a significant leg up in getting that third or fourth or second, one of the top four spots to get into the playoffs.
Yes, I mean, it's like I said, like what he said earlier, we went in the first game against Ravenwood. We had 4 new offensive linemen that have not taken a snap, a junior quarterback that has not taken a snap. So it would have been great if we could open up with maybe a Hendersonville, Cane Ridge the first 2 games, then go into our region. But like you said, it is what it is. Every week a region game is tough. There's not one I don't think one region game that you can look at and have a breather. Our whole schedule, there's not a week, and I know he can say the same thing, that it's not a stressful week. And it's tough, getting the kids up for 10 weeks. I mean, trying to get them motivated for 10 weeks. Trying to find ways to motivate, get them extra motivated. Last week I was fortunate, not just Riverdale, it's a brother. I was able to motivate them that way. When we go to Cane Ridge and Hillsboro, we have a hard time beating Metro teams. So, we're trying to beat a team outside of Williamson. Can we beat a team outside of Williamson County? Because we haven't done that in the past 2 years. So it's looking for ways to get the kids motivated week in and week out.
And, of course, Coach Daniels, you got that week 1. They've got that circled because why? You beat them last year. The only loss they had as the Region 6 6A champions that they did. So, obviously, you can't hide from that anymore, and it's hard to motivate them to say we need to go and knock the champions off. And, you look at that game, 35-28, you're not in this business for moral victories, but we're all right there. It's so close between those top 4 teams. It really is. And the region is, or top 5 teams, rather. The region consists of Brentwood, Ravenwood, Independence, Centennial, Franklin, and Dixon. Dixon's going to be the odd man looking out. That's a given, right? So Brentwood's locked up a top 2 spot with their win over Ravenwood. So now you've got 3 spots with 4 teams. Is basically what you've got. You've got 3 spots for 4 teams. Somebody's going to be the odd man looking out. And that's a gauntlet. Yes. That's a brutal region schedule. I don't know of a tougher schedule. Y'all deal with it more than I do. You look at the Rutherford County teams. They're top heavy. They're real top heavy. You've got Oakland. You've got Blackman. Both are really good teams. And I'm not taking anything away from the other teams, but they're really top heavy. And I think that it's kind of a mixed bag with other teams. I feel like at any given night, our teams can win. I don't feel that way about the Rutherford County region. Coach Webb, you look at your non-region schedule, Hendersonville, McGavick, Riverdale, Oakland. I mean, everybody's got that's not easy. Oakland's sitting right now number 3 in the all-state poll with behind Maryville and Brentwood Academy, which I think that if obviously they have a loss, they're only lost to Maryville by 3. And I'm pretty certain if they lined up against Brentwood Academy, they'd probably win that game. But that's neither here nor there. You've got these games, Spring Hill left as well as Dixon. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how difficult it is to schedule games.
Oh, it is. It's another thing that's, and I know that TWSY is doing what is best for high school and what they feel is best for for the student athlete involved. I get all that, but you take the county over that everybody likes to talk about is Rutherford. Well, they're split too. You know,
Yeah.
they've got them split in 2 different districts. So it's done to help for scheduling, but ironically, then the ones that split over here didn't go back and schedule the Oaklands and we did. You know, which is fine. A non-region game when you know you're in, when you know you've got a chance. The great thing, high school football should be, I'll get criticized for this and all that, but it should be way, way, way more than just winning a football game, because 98% of those kids are not playing college football. They're there for other reasons, and winning is important. Gosh, we're all doing this, or we wouldn't be like Coach was saying, so stressed about it. Winning is very important. But when you have the opportunity, when you know you're in, it changes the way you're trying to find games and trying to make that schedule. But back to what it is, I can guarantee you that Coach Kriesky and I have been talking about it all week about trying to, how do you practice with kids? How do you work with them? Well, tonight's game, it's an easy one. There's no motivation needed. These 2 teams both of them will play their best, and it ought to be an awesome night.
I think we talked about this every year that we come back to the show. You could be winless or undefeated. The student body's going to come. The community's going to come. I know y'all hate it. I love these rivalry games that we have. You got Battle of the Woods, and you got the Border Battle of 840, and this always is the last one, schedule-wise, or has been the last few years, is the Battle of Franklin. Is so well attended. Well, talk about real quick, your hallways, the culture of the building, what this game brings, and what it means to your buildings.
I tell you one neat thing on our side. This week I've had 2 or 3 alumni call me. Just want me to say some words of encouragement to kids, to tell them how much this game means to Centennial community. Got Coach Rob Boffman and Alante McLemore on staff. Both of them have been part of this rivalry for years.
Since building open for Rob, right?
Yes, and it means so much to both communities. It's a fun rivalry too. We were talking about the other day with a couple kids. This is something 10 or 15 years when they're going to the barbershop to get their hair cut. What are they going to talk about? The Centennial Franklin game, because it's important to everybody, to both communities. Go at it tonight, but then at the end of the game, the kids are going to shake hands. Talk to one another, because at the end of the day, they're all friends. It's a high school football game. We'll go at it at 7, but at the end of the game, they're still going to be friends.
That's so funny because no game has ever won on Twitter before, ever. But you look at the Twitter wars between the students, and it kind of gives you a side of the coin that people don't see. They think that everybody hates each other, but when you get on those lines, those guys completely respect, just like you respect each other, and y'all are friends. It's a fun night because of the environment. And you look at this, which I think is a great story and an interesting story. The WMAA Championship, mini Battle of Franklin, Freedom versus Grassland. You guys have got some really good pieces coming down the pipes for you guys in the future for this rivalry just to continue going. I mean, it's pretty neat how the championship game worked out for the WMAA. Now you guys are playing tonight. I think it's really neat. Coach Donnie Keaton was a part of your staff at one time. He's got a really good team over there. What's that mean for Tony? I know that you're happy for him and his program for playing in that championship game.
Oh, it's awesome. Tony does a great job with those kids, and continually talking to them about 85% of our school now comes from Grassland. So it's one feeder. So it's so important for them to do well and then want to come up there and be a part of it. So it is pretty cool that they're playing essentially it's not 100%, but essentially the Franklin Centennial communities are playing each other in that championship, and then for tonight's game as well. That's awesome. I just wanted to real quickly say the same thing, Matt. I've had two kids and two alumni called me, and then there was 2 of them that are siblings to some of our JV kids that were at the game Monday night. Man, that's all they wanted to talk about.
So I've got this on here. That's interesting. Y'all said that. I have alumni radar written down. I want to talk about your alumni. Let's, if you don't mind, and if you don't want to divulge their names, that's fine. But Talk a little bit about where some of our guys are right now. Obviously, everybody knows the Tyrell Dotsons of the world and what he does at Texas A&M. Do you ever hear from him or hear from? See, I came to the game the other night. I saw Tavion Fleming come. And he supports what you do. And talk about some of your alumni right now that are currently playing.
Tavion's at Birmingham Southern. Also, he's playing with also a former Franklin player, so that's pretty neat. They actually, both of them called me one day this summer. They were together. They were talking about the Battle of Franklin, and now they're teammates. They just
Are these guys coming tonight?
I'm not for sure. I think they played
No,
seven.
they're on the road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he's one of the guys that called me. They played I think a Thursday night and they were off, and he's been in both. He's came back home to come to our games. Centennial, DeRoe, Devious, Chrisman, they're at Bethel.
Yeah.
Centennial actually just this past week got Player of the Week for special teams at Bethel. So they're three guys that since I've been there played for us, are now at the next level, doing good things, and always checking back and making sure how the program's doing.
And so many people overlook something like that, man. Those guys are going to be just as successful. Some people get overlooked at that Power 5 stuff, and they get caught up in the stars and what their ratings are. These are great, high-character kids that both of you have coached. I can't speak enough good things about those two kids that you met and how awesome, how well they received me. I really have zero bearing in their life, and they're super respectful of me. That means a lot to me and tells me a lot about their character. Coach Webb, what about you on your side?
Well, we're going to run out of time, and I'm going to get in trouble because I won't mention someone, right? But
there's a ton. That's okay.
But Gentry, of course. My wife and I took the kids down, went down and watched Tavion and Gentry play for Birmingham Southern last weekend, and got an excuse to go to Dreamland Barbecue.
There you go.
But I also got to see those guys, and that's the first thing Gentry said after the game was he brought up the game tonight.
Battle of Franklin.
Yeah. And so they were talking about it. Joe Critchlow is still at BYU. Of course, Corey's kicking at Missouri.
Can't say enough about him and Emmanuel Hall both.
Alex Kaka is now gone to UTC, and Barrett Brown is getting now. They've gone from Memphis. He is at Tennessee Tech. Batarse is not Peter. That's his dad. JP is at Austin P.
Yeah.
And then of course Mitch Rossi is still playing at Ohio State.
Got them everywhere. We're running out of time. You're right. We could go on and on about this. Jariel Wilson, future Austin P governor, going to be a great fit there. Best of luck to both of you guys. Hey, so you've been so bad. Went by quick.
Thanks. No, it was really good.
Thanks for joining us. 7 o'clock kickoff tonight. Battle of Franklin. You better get there early. Kickoff's at 7. I'd advise you get there at 5 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.